The South China Sea, 2027. A People's Liberation Army Navy carrier strike group is pushing south from Hainan Island at 22 knots. Type 055 destroyers fanned out in a screening formation. DF-21D anti-ship ballistic missiles on launchers 300 miles behind them, and a dense layered air defense bubble stretching 900 kilometers in every direction. The kind of coverage specifically designed to keep American carriers far enough back that their aircraft can't reach anything worth hitting. For the better part of a decade, that bubble was the problem. The problem that kept Pacific commanders awake at night and kept defense contractors very comfortably employed. And then the strategy changed. Not the hardware, not the platforms, the concept. The actual way American forces would fight inside that environment. What the Pentagon has been quietly building toward for the last 6 years looks nothing like the force that fought in Iraq or Libya or any other conflict where American air dominance was assumed before the first jet crossed the border. This is designed for a world where that dominance is contested from the moment the first radar turns on. It's called Distributed Maritime Operations, and it's the single most significant shift in American naval warfighting doctrine since the carrier replaced the battleship as the centerpiece of fleet power. The core problem is geometry. A carrier strike group built around one flat top presents one target. One very large, very expensive, very trackable target, DF-21. The anti-ship ballistic missiles exist for a single purpose: find that target, compute a firing solution, and end the argument before it starts. At roughly $10 million per round, China can afford to fire enough of them to saturate the point defenses of anything floating in their backyard. That's not a threat the Navy can shoot its way through conventionally. The old answer was standoff distance. Keep the carrier outside the engagement envelope. The new answer is don't cluster the firepower in the first place. Distributed Maritime Operations breaks the strike group apart. Instead of massing everything around a single carrier, the force spreads across hundreds of miles of ocean in smaller, harder-to-track nodes. Guided missile destroyers operating independently, submarines pushing deep into contested water. Unmanned surface vessels doing sensor work that used to require a full destroyer and 300 sailors. The idea is to give an adversary not one target to kill, but dozens of simultaneous problems spread across a geometry too large for any single targeting solution to cover. Think of it less like a fist and more like a net dropped across the entire operating area. A fist is powerful. You can also see it coming from 900 kilometers away on a search radar. The Replicator Initiative is where this gets real. Announced in 2023, the program's stated goal was to field thousands of autonomous systems across multiple domains within 18 to 24 months. Thousands, not dozens, not hundreds. The kind of scale that changes the math on attrition entirely. Cheap autonomous platforms, air, surface, underwater, operating alongside high-end manned systems in coordinated swarms. You lose 200 of them and the mission continues. Lose a carrier and the mission ends. The investigation starts and someone is testifying before Congress inside of a week. The asymmetry is the whole architecture of the thing. The cost exchange is the point. A Type 055 destroyer costs China roughly $900 million to build. A Replicator-class autonomous surface vessel, depending on configuration, runs somewhere between $3 million and $15 million. Fire an HHQ-9 interceptor at one of them. That's $3 million per round gone, and you've broken roughly even on the exchange. Saturate a defense network with 300 autonomous contacts and you've either drained the magazine or forced a targeting problem that no fire control system was built to manage at that volume. The same logic that made cheap drones so expensive for Iran to stop applies here at a fundamentally larger operational scale. Hardware is the easy part. The hard part is command and control. Distributed forces that can't communicate aren't a strategy. They're just a dispersal with good intentions. The Navy's Project Overmatch is the architecture trying to solve that. A mesh network running across every node in the kill chain. Satellites, undersea repeaters, airborne relays, ships and submarines all feeding a common operating picture updated fast enough to actually matter. The goal is a tactical net where a targeting solution generated by an unmanned underwater vehicle gets handed off to a surface missile shooter in seconds, without a human adding latency to the loop. Latency gets people killed. That's not a philosophical point. It's a timing problem with a body count attached. What makes this genuinely different from previous doctrine is what it assumes about the opening hours of any conflict. Every prior American strategy in the Pacific assumed the U.S. would dominate the electromagnetic spectrum early. Suppress the air defenses, establish the corridors, work from there. Against China, that assumption doesn't hold. The PLA spent 20 years studying exactly how America fights and building systems specifically designed to deny those corridors before the first strike aircraft crosses the border. Distributed maritime operations assumes the electromagnetic environment is contested from the first second. It assumes some autonomous systems will be jammed, some will be destroyed. It's built to absorb those losses and keep generating targeting solutions anyway. Attrition tolerance is a design requirement, not a backup plan. The operational planning for this shift began in the early 2020s. American military planners realized that matching Chinese mass production directly was fundamentally no longer viable. What emerged instead was recognition that American advantages lay in generating tactical flexibility across platforms. The financial argument alone drives the shift. Maintaining a single carrier battle group costs roughly $50 billion annually. Testing autonomous systems in contested environments began in 2024 with increasingly promising results. Navy confidence in the concept grew sufficiently that operational deployments were being planned by 2026. This represents strategic evolution in how carrier capability gets employed against near-peer competitors. The reshaping of naval strategy has already begun affecting how the Navy allocates resources. The Marine Corps restructured around this same logic. Force Design 2030 eliminated the Corps' tanks entirely. All of them. Gone, traded for small mobile expeditionary units called Marine Littoral Regiments, designed to move between island chains across the Pacific, set up anti-ship missile batteries, generate targeting data, and disappear before a counterstrike arrives. Each regiment is a problem an adversary has to find and solve. Stack enough of those problems across the first island chain and the geometry starts working against whoever's trying to push through it. Each island becomes a potential missile threat that has to be suppressed before a surface action group can maneuver freely. That's a lot of suppression. That takes time. Time is range. The Tomahawk Maritime Strike variant is the weapon that ties the dispersed architecture together. Standard Block 5 missiles, already loaded in existing magazines, received a software update enabling anti-ship targeting against maneuvering vessels. A missile that spent 30 years being programmed against fixed GPS coordinates can now chase a moving warship at 550 miles per hour across open ocean. That matters because a distributed force without long-range anti-ship strike capability is just a dispersal with no teeth. The upgrade gives every destroyer, every submarine, and every appropriately equipped unmanned surface vessel the ability to threaten an enemy carrier strike group from well outside its own defensive perimeter. Range wins the geometry argument before the engagement starts. The undersea component is where most analysts think the sharpest asymmetric advantage sits. Virginia-class submarines carry 12 vertical launch tubes in the bow module as standard. Block 5 hulls added the Virginia payload module, a hull stretch that adds 28 more launch cells per boat. 40 Tomahawks per submarine running silent, operating deep inside any defensive screen the PLA Navy can establish on the surface. The DF-21D that threatens a carrier has no variant designed to target a submarine running at 800 feet below the thermal layer. No targeting solution works reliably against something you can't locate, and the Western Pacific is very deep and very quiet in the places that matter most. The strategy isn't finished. Replicator production numbers are behind the original schedule. The command and control mesh still has identifiable gaps that the Navy hasn't solved cleanly. The Marine littoral regiments haven't been stress tested at scale in a genuinely contested electromagnetic environment. China has been studying American undersea doctrine for 2 decades and isn't standing still. None of that makes the concept wrong. It makes it incomplete. What's already shifted is the underlying logic. A force built to win by concentrating power is giving way to a force built to make concentration itself a liability. By 2028, the first fully integrated distributed maritime operations exercise is scheduled in the Philippine Sea, and the targeting geometry the PLA has been planning against for 30 years will look very different from what shows up on their scopes.